Good evening. My name is Carson Ulmer, and I will be talking about knowledge management systems as my tool, and more precisely, Microsoft SharePoint as my technology. Document management systems, also known as a DMS, are any electronic form of managing enterprise documents, meaning emails, Excel projects, like Word documents, anything like that. Just managing them, like making them easier to find, to use, anything like that. Um, ex Examples of a DMS are a pCloud, HubSpot, Rubex, and SharePoint, which I will be focusing on. And to me personally, this tool is the most uh, important tool in knowledge management. Uh, for that reason, or like to come up with that, I was just basically thinking about how the future is data, and how there's just more data and it's all online and stuff like that. So managing these documents and data is just increasingly becoming more important. So with that being said, it leads to the future of documentation. Uh, as we all know, every year technology just gets better and better, and this leads to more data and even at times an influx of data in companies, which can be overwhelming and stressful for employees and managers and whatnot. So there's just a higher need for the management of this data, which is exactly what a DMS is. Um, a lot of this data gets stored on iCloud, which it can be infinite. It's just an online way of storing data, and it's becoming more and more important. To focus on Microsoft SharePoint, it was founded in 2001, which obviously in '01 it wasn't that big or anything, with technology just not being that big. It didn't really come into its own until '07. It's been growing by the year, obviously, and it's not free. The plans they range from $5 to 20, with the $20 one being unlimited storage in the iCloud, which for the bigger enterprises that's the most popular. And I believe 78% of Fortune 500 companies are actually using SharePoint now. So it is just even every year just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Advantages of this application is a greater collaboration, because employees can work on the same document at the exact same time, and it's easily shared. You can access them, as I was explaining, at the exact same time. You can share them at any time, store them wherever you like, and storage is a huge part of it, because you can store, depending on the plan, as much documents as you want, and you can access these documents like whenever you want, depending on the management of these documents, because that's also a big part in this. Because if you don't manage the documents, then yes, the files can get mixed up. And then also efficiency. Through my research, I found that people who are interviewed and who actually use this every day have found that after using SharePoint, their efficiency and the time that it takes to get documents or share documents or export them is much faster, even weeks faster than how they used to do it before with actual physical papers and filing. So those are some big points for SharePoint. If you don't use a DMS, it's just not as efficient. Obviously, you're just not going to get what you're looking for uh, in terms of speed. There was a study done by PwC and Gardner, which found that 7.5% of documents get lost if you don't use or if you use physical documents in filing. 3% of the documents are filed wrong, and half the time is spent on searching for documents, which obviously that's not good if you're wanting to run a very efficient workplace. So to focus on the excuse me, to focus on strategy and data management, proper management is needed for best e efficiency of SharePoint. And like with no strategy, there's no management, and SharePoint provides an easier way for management, because with filing and physical copies, it can get very hectic, and there's just a whole bunch of files and places that you need to put things. But if it's all on a cloud, uh, it's a lot easier. And like while there is a need to manage these documents and to have a strategy, it's not as hectic as if you were to use like cloud management, I guess. To focus on organizational culture, obviously, the more functioning the workplace is, the happier it is, because you're not having to worry about uh, finding documents or not finishing them, not collaborating with people. It's just a lot easier. SharePoint provides easy access to all of the needs that you would want, and there's less time wasted on finding documents and sharing information, which leads to less stress. So having a nice culture helps to, I mean, first of all, to have more people work there, like want to work there, and just overall just have a happier workplace. For organizational processes, um, as mentioned, SharePoint provides for easy collaboration, um, and the processes which you need to do a task can be easily shared and cooperated with one another. And the iCloud keeps these records in place and easily accessible to carry out the processes. For management and leadership, uh, this dimension of knowledge management is to me the most important in carrying out effectiveness of SharePoint in a workplace, because while it does make it easier, there is a need to manage where these files are going, who the leader is of keeping these files intact, or doing a project and whatnot. Because if it's a whole bunch of employees who are doing different things, then documents can get cluttered and unorganized. So there is a need for ownership still. Excuse me. For technology and politics, technology of this application allows for users to have a say in the document or in the company and the projects, because if they're collaborating, then they can express their ideas better and talk about what they want to talk about, and easier collaboration, which can lead to a better culture, as mentioned, and easier sharing of knowledge. It gives the opportunity for each employee to give their input and feel more involved in the company, which politically and socially, that just leads for a better workplace, and the employees, they feel more integrated in the company. Personally, I have used this before. Uh, like last year, I had this project on NBA player data, and I worked on it with four other people, and we ended up using SharePoint, although like we bought the $5 version, so we didn't have everything that it comes with exactly. Uh, I like, first used it and I was amazed at how easy it is to work, how easy it is to store things, how easy it is to collaborate like with one another. Because something that's cool about it is you can actually like, work on a document. You can go back to the document and it'll have the original document and then also have the document that you made changes on, so that you can backtrack or even look at things that you need to work on. There's just a whole bunch of cool features that come with it. My father actually also has used, or not has used, is also using this in everyday work. He works at Peterbilt and he's a quality manager, and he uses SharePoint almost every day to help manage files and things like that. All of the places I have worked have not involved like using computers or managing files or anything like that. So I personally haven't used it in the workplace, but I've found it helpful and have been very fascinated by it, and just wanted to do more like research on the SharePoint because of the direction that the future is headed, like, with data and the management of this data. A DMS to me is, as I mentioned, the most important tool, and that's why I wanted to expand on my learning. For my findings in the research, I found that the many people interviewed, they noticed the efficiency it has compared to how they were managing documents prior to using SharePoint. And it contains, this is actually pretty cool, it contains like what's known as like workflows that are like pre-programmed processes that help to move documents in certain areas, so that employees don't have to worry about the filing or the movement of documents. They can rather just like worry about like, what they need to get, and then like work with those documents and like, just let the computer of the SharePoint file the documents and put them like, where they need to be. I also found that the lack of content owners, which basically means that they lack the going back to like what I was talking about with the management of SharePoint. You need an owner or a leader to manage the documents and whatnot, and some people interviewed and talked about how the lack of owners for these documents and the management of SharePoint, they didn't provide a correct management of the application, which led to some chaos if you needed to get things fast and whatnot. And then overall, just satisfaction from the employees and the organizations. I couldn't find anything a negative about SharePoint. I did find that some other applications were better in other aspects than SharePoint, but overall, the people who used it, they loved it. They were like really happy with how it worked and like how it helped their company and like their own personal business. And yeah, for challenges, the challenges were actually not related to SharePoint. It was more so finding articles about it, simply because it's not exactly a a topic that people really talk about a lot. It was kind of hard to find topics that I found interesting. Collecting studies about it, there's not that many people who did like research on it or interviews or any form of collecting data about it. And then finding disadvantages. As I also mentioned, I couldn't find any disadvantages of using it, like other than some parts of it like weren't as good as other software or iCloud services. But other than that, I mean, I didn't find any disadvantages. Like only good things to say about it. And lastly, for the conclusion, overall, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't use document management systems. With the future that data is headed in, and the future is big data and its management, because in the first slide mentioned, data is just growing more and more, and everything's like becoming online and in the cloud. So like, the way to manage those is like the biggest need right now, really. So these DMS systems are crucial in any business or enterprise. As mentioned, there was nothing but positives about SharePoint. There was no disadvantages, just good things to say. And from personal experience, I also feel the exact same way. And management, like within SharePoint, is just as needed as the system itself, because like, without the management, there is just a whole bunch of cluttered data. And while you can use the pre-processed or the automatic version of storing documents, that is only one part of it, and it's the most expensive version of SharePoint. So not everyone has that access or things like that. So management or like leadership is very important in the app itself. And that is all. So